Battling is an essential part of the main series Pokemon games. It's the primary thing you do to win. And yet, in this series, the Minimum Battle series, we try to see how few of them we can do in all of the games and yet still win. These challenges have been getting harder and harder, and I don't expect Pokemon Diamond to really let up. But before we get into the challenge, it's probably important to refresh you on what the rules are. As the name suggests, the idea is to battle as few times as possible. What counts as a battle? Simple. Any trainer battle, win or lose, and any wild battle where you don't immediately run away. These rules are what make the challenge so fun because you have such severe limitations. There are so few Pokemon you can acquire since you can't catch, and there's a limited number of experience points because we're trying to do it in the minimum amount of battles. Since this is a challenge run, we're not going to use items and we're going to play on set mode. But that's it for the general rules. Now let's talk about how they're going to make this playthrough of Pokemon Diamond really, really difficult. Like I just said, there are very few Pokemon that we can acquire. And thus, as you can imagine, we have a huge decision right off the bat. Which starter Pokemon are we going to take? Typically in these challenges, I will use one Pokemon that will be my main. And the last couple times, it's been my starter Pokemon, as the gift Pokemon and in-game trades and Game Corner become either non-existent or fewer and fewer. So this is a big choice. However, how good the Pokemon is not the only consideration. HMs are important. Because I have a limited number of Pokemon, I need to make sure that whatever Pokemon I choose can learn all the HMs. Because if they can't, well then I'd have to catch an extra Pokemon that would be an extra battle. So sometimes, like in Generation 3, you have to take Mudkip. Well, initially when I did this run back in 2022, I didn't think it actually mattered. That no matter what, none of these Pokemon could learn all the HMs at the right times, and therefore we're gonna have to catch an additional Pokemon. And so for that reason, I ended up picking Piplup, both because it has a really good matchup against Roark, but also because Piplup would allow me to do something that originally I just thought would be really cool, but what if I told you it turned out to be way more than that? Normally in these runs, I would reset over and over and over in order to get the perfect Piplup. The fact I didn't do that should clue you into the fact Piplup is not going to be my main, but it is the Pokemon we're going to use to take down Roark. Having said that, there's a few battles we need to do before that, including the battle against Starly, and since I don't run away because I can't, that is our first battle. We'll see how many we need before this is over. So skipping past the tutorial stuff, we are on Route 202. And as you can see, we have 3 trainers, none of them move, and all of them have maximum vision, aka we can't skip any of them. So by the time we make it to Jubilife City, we will have battled 4 times. Now it's here in Jubilife City I could answer a question that comes up a lot. J-Rose, what's the difference between a minimum battles run and a speed run? Since speedrunners are trying to go fast, ideally they wouldn't battle that much. And you'd be both right, but also wrong. Because there are 2 optional battles in the trainer school that are definitely useful in a speed run because they give hidden power, which is really useful. But in a minimum battles run, and I promise you there'll be more examples of this, we are willing to go very slow just to skip a single battle. And I do mean a single battle. You'll see, it's nuts. I mean, also speedrunners are allowed to use items, but the big thing here in this challenge, even if I allowed items in battle, is intentionally trying to skip trainers can make the routing a lot more interesting. Anyway, there's one battle just as we head to 203, our first battle versus our rival, Barry. This battle kind of sucks because sometimes Starly just likes to spam Growl. In this battle, it didn't do that, which is super lucky. Now you might say, well, J-Rose, don't you want Growl? But no, definitely not, because Gen 4, the rival still has the Pokemon strong against ours, and already you can see how little I do with Pound. Imagine how bad it would be if we had -2 or 3 attack, which, for the record, has happened before. I did a few attempts of this, and we can talk... Wait a minute, am I going to lose? Oh, I actually lost anyway. Okay, well that's annoying, and you can see this battle's just pure RNG. It took me 3 or 4 more attempts till I finally beat Barry, which is really annoying, but all I have is Piplup. For those of you wondering, J-Rose, can't you get return? There are a lot of people who are going to ask questions, and I want to direct you to Bulbapedia, and you need to ask yourself this. Am I thinking of Pokemon Platinum? There is a solid chance. Now, there are things I might have overlooked, but there's a solid chance you're thinking of Platinum. In Platinum, I would have Return, and this battle would be a different kind of annoying. But in Diamond and Pearl, Return is not available right at the beginning, and so I'm stuck using Pound. But between that and Bubble, I'm able to beat Turtwig, and wouldn't you know, this would hypothetically be the last mandatory battle prior to Roark. Now, you might be wondering, Jairus, what does that mean? Hypothetically, like what? There's a practical need, and yes, there actually is. Here's where we need to talk a little bit about HMs. There are a lot of them in Generation 4, but the ones I want to focus on we can divide into two categories. Water HMs and, well, the other ones. So the big problem with water HMs is typically only water Pokemon can learn them, especially Waterfall, which is mandatory in the endgame. And since there are very few gift Pokemon, in fact, why don't I show you the list of gift Pokemon? Here it is, and it's actually deceptively large. It's not this many Pokemon, because you only get one of the 3 starters, and Riolu, I know people are going to ask about it. You need to battle a bunch of extra Team Galactic members. That's not mandatory. So in fact, the only Pokemon I can acquire for free in Diamond and Pearl, not Platinum, it's different in Platinum, is Happiny, Cranidos, or Shieldon if I already use Pearl, and one of the 3 starters. Now in some games like Pokemon Red and Gold, you only need to battle trainers and never have to worry about wild Pokemon. But sometimes games are designed in such a way where an extra battle is mandatory, and this is one of those games. I have Piplup, so I've got the water HMs covered, but while Primplup can use Rock Smash, Piplup cannot. And unfortunately, there simply isn't enough experience points for Piplup to evolve into Primplup before Rock Smash becomes mandatory. If we were to pick Chimchar and Turtwig, this wouldn't be a problem, but we would need to catch some sort of water Pokemon in order to use the water HMs. So in theory, at least to this point, it seems like any of them would work. But since I have Piplup, that means I need to get my extra battle right now, and the Pokemon I chose to add to my team was Machop. Now you'll notice that I don't catch a bunch of Machops and that it doesn't necessarily look great with a Brave Nature. But I'm happy with it. It's going to be more than enough because I just needed to use Rock Smash to get to Flormona Town. And it's at this point, with battle number 7, we're going to battle our very first gym leader, Roark. Even though we have a water starter, Roark isn't a pushover because our Piplup is underleveled. Bubble doesn't even one-shot Geodude. But Stealth Rocks is fine. Then it goes for Potion, and we can knock it out with Bubble. That's very good. That's 1 down. The next comes out is Onix, and it does outspeed us. And it's going to be a 2-shot, but it misses with Screech, and we knock it out. Now against Cranidos, I'm actually okay if Machop gets some experience points. Well, what is he doing? You'll see. In the end, I actually end up winning with Piplup, which has never happened before. I've done this a few times because I've had to reset. We'll talk about that. But typically, Piplup would faint, and then Machop would help knock out Cranidos and gain some experience points. Which you might think is strange because why are you giving experience points to Machop? You said it wasn't the main. But Piplup isn't either, so I guess it doesn't matter. Trust me, it'll all make sense very shortly. There's only one more battle until we have to use Rock Smash, and it's against these grunts in a multi-battle, teaming up with Lucas or Dawn, depending on what gender you are. And as you can see, there's no way in heck Piplup would ever become Primplup at this point, which is why we absolutely need Machop in order to break these rocks and, like I said, access Flormona. So we're at 8 battles right now, and we're about to enter our first villain team segment. There are 3 mandatory grunt battles, and then you can battle Commander Mars. So against Mars, Piplup is at level 14. Again, still not Primplup. Zubat is very annoying. It has Bite, it has Toxic, and Piplup doesn't do very much damage. We do need it to knock out the Zubat, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen here. I'm going to reset and teach Piplup a new move. Rock Tomb. We actually get Rock Tomb by this point, and while it's still its awful base 80 accuracy, it does half lower speed and hits twice to knock out Zubat, which is great. So now comes out Purugly, and this Purugly is a pain. It goes for Scratch. I have the Oranberry equipped. Thank you, Flormona Town. And I'm going to try to lower both its attack and its speed. Unfortunately, I missed the Rock Tomb get a crit against me, but Machop has... Well, I'm actually going to use Rock Smash to try and lower its defense, and then maybe a Karate Chop will knock it out. Feint Attack is resisted. Wow, it seems like it's just attacking at random, doesn't it? So strange it would use that move. And Feint Attack again, why doesn't it just use Scratch? So weird. I wonder if this is foreshadowing to something awful about Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Couldn't be. Anyway, Machop wins, gets a ton of experience points, and we're able to move on. Now take a look at Route 205, at least just the picture. It looks like there would be several mandatory battles, but none of them are. This is because of a mechanic that helps us immensely in minimum battles, but still drives me nuts and definitely would drive speedrunners nuts. Spinners. Spinners are just trainers who move in different directions, and there are some who rotate in a predictable pattern, but some who just change their direction randomly. Sometimes they can look in all 4 directions, sometimes they can only look in 2 or 3 of them, but spinners are the worst. And every single trainer that looks mandatory is a spinner. Now, there is a way to freeze them in place, based on my understanding. However, I don't know how to do it. There are an obscene amount of spinners in this game, which again is great. It means we don't have to battle as much as it looks like we're going to. But at the same time, every single route I have to save and reset 100 times because of spinners. So it does make this really tedious during big walking sections. Moving on to Eterna Forest, Cheryl is going to join us for some more multi-battles. And there are actually only 2 of these that are mandatory. Now, you might question, J-Rose, you're battling 2 trainers. Is it 2 battles? No. It's a single multi-battle. It's 1 battle. I'm only battling 1 time. It's not even like, oh, J-Rose, you're really stretching. Like, no, literally, it's just 1 battle. But yeah, these battles really, really suck. And I want Piplup to evolve as soon as possible because we're about to get our main, and I need Piplup to evolve in order to get it. Well, after beating the first set of trainers, Piplup does get enough EXP, and it evolves into Primplup. And Primplup can learn Rock Smash, which means we don't need Machop anymore. So why don't we mosey on over to Oreburgh City? And would you look at that? This here NPC is willing to trade my Machop for one of the best Pokemon I could ever ask to use. Well, it will eventually become it, but of course I'm referring to Abra, who will evolve into Kadabra, and it is Kadabra which will be my main. Now, you might say, J-Rose, aren't you being biased here? And as you're going to see, the answer is no. Kadabra is a really good main, and mandatory. We'll talk about that in a second, but I didn't know that at the time. I did the Piplup route because I wanted an excuse to use Kadabra in a run, and little did I know Kadabra is both optimal, well, there's an exception, and mandatory. That's not an exception. It is definitely mandatory. Now, you may have noticed I didn't reset or try to look at the Abra stats. This is because traded Pokemon for a while now have set natures and IVs. This is good. It means I know the exact Abra I will get, and if I have to do a redo, which I did, I will get the exact same Abra and be able to make my plans accordingly. Since minimum battles means I also do the same battles every time, there is a ton of consistency between runs, which is nice and rare in an RPG like Pokemon. Now, I will say, in addition to Kadabra being my favorite Pokemon, it also works out that you get it very early on, and it's a traded Pokemon. And traded Pokemon gain 50% more experience points. And in a run where experience points are minimal, you want as many of them as possible. This is how we beat Generation 2 by using Kenya the Fearow, a frickin' Fearow. So of course, Kadabra, which is a solid Pokemon, I want to use it. First things first though, we actually need to evolve our Abra into Kadabra. And this is going to be a bit difficult because Abra doesn't actually have any attacking moves. These are double battles, so Chansey can help us here, but it's easier just to swap in our Prinplup to knock out the two Abra. And this is actually the last battle in Eterna Forest, which is mandatory. You actually can skip all the remaining trainers and make it to Eterna City. In fact, none of the trainers on the way to Eterna City are mandatory. That means the next trainers we're going to battle are in the Eterna Gym. Now, the Eterna Gym has a bunch of trainers, none of which we can skip. Gardenia literally will not appear until we defeat all 4 of them. That will give us more than enough experience points to evolve Abra into Kadabra. And in theory, we would just be using Kadabra going forward. In practice, we have to deal with something really annoying, and that is obedience. As you can see in my first run a couple years ago, Kadabra ignored orders. It isn't doing what I'm telling it to do. I'm gonna be real with you, I don't know the exact percent of this level Kadabra not obeying me, but it felt like 75% of the time it didn't do what I told it to do, which really sucks versus random trainers, but was brutal versus Gardenia. This was the first run I ever did with Kadabra, and after, I think about half an hour of resetting this battle, I realized it just simply was not feasible, that Kadabra simply was too inconsistent for it to work. So let me show you how I got it to work now this year. You'll notice I don't lead with Kadabra, but with Prinplup. Now you might question how a water Pokemon is going to beat a grass gym, but thankfully in Flormona Town, there is the TM for Pluck, which of course I have gotten. Gardenia leads with Cherubi, and we instantly go for a Pluck. Now we do about half. Leech Seed is annoying, but we will be able to knock out Cherubi. So that's one of the 3 Pokemon down. The second Pokemon is a Turtwig, but one thing that's important is I leveled up Prinplup way more than I did in the 2023 run. Now, what I should have done in this battle is once I used Reflect, swapped into Kadabra, and got rid of the Leech Seed, I went for Pluck because this was the first battle I had done, and I get a clutch critical hit. And so I keep Prinplup in and go for Pluck against Roserade. Now, Pluck has a good secondary effect. It will steal Roserade's Citrus, so I'm restored to full HP. Of course, Roserade just yanked a bunch of that back. It goes for Grass Knot. I use my Oran Berry to restore health, but I'm doing very little damage between the Reflect and the Leech Seed. And this makes the battle exactly what I don't want. Completely RNG. I get Confusion and a crit turn 1. So if you're like, well, Jaros, that was crazy lucky. Sure, let me show you a battle where I didn't get crazy luck, but this is the run we're going to be talking about today. But let me show you a different run where it was a little harder, but still there's a strat. Now, unfortunately, we need Cherubi to cooperate. A really easy way is to just reset for a crit. It sucks, but it's the first Pokemon. Now out comes Turtwig. We go for Pluck against Turtwig, and we're hoping we don't see Reflect. Unfortunately, we see it. You can see in this run, by the way, I have the animations turned off. I go for Metal Claw to raise my attack. That's only 10% chance, but really, I'm trying to stall out the Reflect. But not only that, with the attack boost, I'm able to knock out the Turtwig with another Pluck. And that means I get to Roserade without Leech Seed. Reflect is still up, and it is going to go for Stun Spore, which sucks, but I'm going to steal its Citrus Berry, which is amazing. I restore a bunch of HP. Funny enough, this is where Gen 3 Citrus Berry would be great, but as you can properly tell, this battle, even in this run, is luck-based because we once again need Kadabra to cooperate. This Kadabra is at level 17. We go for Confusion. It goes for Poison Sting, which is fine, but it won't obey. Poison Sting again. Uh-oh. I'm poisoned, but the Confusion hits, and we did enough damage that it's a one-shot. So, not as luck-based as the 2025 battle, but I'm not going to try to deceive you. This battle is definitely very RNG-based. And sadly, as you'll discover, it's not the only battle that requires a bit of RNG, but as we go on in generations, this challenge becomes a little more difficult each time. So we're gonna need RNG more and more, but hey, it might not be as bad as Ruby and Sapphire. That was brutal. Watch that video if you want to see a truly grueling minimum battles experience. But we have 19 battles, we're at level 18, and we have Kadabra obeying us to level 30, which for a traded Pokemon is not that far away. So I need to be cognizant of that, and Prinplup still might get some usage here. Well, now it's time to do the Team Galactic side quest. Well, actually, it's the main quest. You have to do this. But it's a double battle, so we get to level up both Kadabra and Prinplup, exactly what we want. I do use Kadabra, though, to beat both the next Grunt and a Scientist before we face Jupiter. Jupiter is kind of tough because although the first Pokemon, really easy, it is a Zubat, the next Pokemon is something that I really don't want to face, and it is a Skuntank. Now, you can see that I don't really have anything great to use against the Skuntank. I can potentially disable its Dark move, but that's about it. I have to switch in Prinplup, and I go for Rock Smash, trying to lower its defenses, but it's a pretty strong Pokemon. It poisons me, and I don't even know what to do. It lowers my accuracy. I'm just lowering its defense, but that's only so useful. I kind of try to get cheeky and switch in Kadabra here, trying to make sure I can disable a move that's good, but it goes for Screech. That's not a move I want to disable. That's what I wanted to disable, Night Slash. Unfortunately, wasn't able to disable it, and I miss with the Rock Tomb, and that is the battle. Well, I get a crit, which was nice. Also should have used Pluck, but yeah, that's not going to work. Now, I really did mess up here. I actually should have leveled up Kadabra a little bit more, because if you do that, at level 22, and this Skuntank was pretty damaged by the Prinplup, you can use Miracle Eye, which allows Kadabra to ignore the Dark type immunity, and thus it has a super effective confusion against Skuntank. It learns it though at level 22, and because of the way I leveled up Kadabra in my current run, that wasn't a strat, but it was really cool. I wanted to show it off. Unfortunately, in this run, the battle was a little bit more difficult, and there wasn't much I could do. Now, as you noticed maybe in the 2023 run, I did start with Prinplup there too. So Prinplup's level 20. It's still getting some pretty awesome usage, and I go for Rock Smash. I do need to go for Pluck, and I'm not going for it here. I do have the Pecha Berry to cure poison. I lower its defense. I was greedy, and I get poisoned again. I go for Pluck. That gives me the Citrus Berry, so I'm at 41 health, now 34. It goes for Smokescreen. I don't have Kadabra to help, at least not with damage, but I can restore my accuracy by switching into Kadabra. I stall it with a Disable, and of course, once it knocks out Kadabra, the first move it goes for has to be Smokescreen, but Pluck is able to knock it out. This is an annoying fight, but it was useful, and the fact Kadabra didn't get the experience points from Skuntank means it can gain more experience later on, because it's going to be a long way to Crash or Wake, and the more Kadabra we can use until then, the better. Now that we're done in Eterna, we can use the bike to go back to Orberg, and in Orberg, we're going to get our penultimate Pokemon, a Cranidos, because this is Diamond version. Prior to battling Gardenia, I did go to the underground, and you can find fossils there. In theory, I could actually get multiple Cranidos. Typically, in my challenge runs, I don't like using duplicates, so I'm going to go with just one Cranidos. And it is very annoying to find it, and also very annoying to bike down this path. None of the trainers are mandatory, but using a bike, it's difficult to avoid them. Anyway, I'm going to go into the museum in Orberg and get myself a Cranidos. This is just going to be used for fodder. Sometimes I'm going to need a Pokemon to swap into. It is a Pokemon that is usable, but I actually forgot something in Eterna. Good news, Kadabra still has Teleport, so I can teleport right back to Eterna, and I can go to the Eterna Forest, cut down the trees to go to the old chateau, and within there, I can get a move that if you watched my recent starter runs, you know it can be quite overpowered at times. I'm talking about, in this game, TM90 Substitute. Gonna be honest, don't know how much it will help, but why not? That's not the only thing I forgot in Eterna. You see, starting in Diamond and Pearl, registering Pokemon for the sake of like in-game events doesn't actually require you to catch them, just to see them. And so once I saw this Ponyta, as well as the Meditite, I have, as I save, 35 Pokemon registered in my Pokedex. It's weird they switched from seeing to catching, but super helpful for minimum battles, because in this, actually don't know what you call this, but anyway, there is one of Professor Rowan's aids, and if you meet 35 Pokemon, you get experience share. Considering obedience will be a bit of a problem, having the ability to have the amount of experience we get is super, super useful. But alright, it's been forever since we actually got into a battle, which is good, but we're going to advance the game a bit further. We're going to have to play some very careful Metal Gear Pokemon here to avoid trainers. And then there's this one-way ledge right here. Probably should save because this hiker is a spinner, or at least a half spinner. He turns left, then he looks up. So that's a bit of a problem. And for no reason, I want to point out, if I didn't go that long and complicated way, just see those two trainers right there in the green? Yeah, I'm sure they're not going to be a huge run-ending problem. Nope, just two random trainers. Not an issue whatsoever. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying that. Cyrus isn't going to battle you here. We can go through Mount Coronet. In fact, we don't get another battle for a really long time. You might think, oh, Route 208. No. Both the hikers in Diamond and Pearl, let me make this clear, it's in Diamond and Pearl, are skippable. Additionally, in these games, Fantina in Hearthome City is not the third gym leader for some reason. It is Maylene, meaning the next battle as we try to leave Hearthome is going to actually be Rival 2. Yeah, I think this is only the second time we battle him. Alright, so we're going to try using just Kadabra here. We're going to go for Confusion against Starly. It's a one-shot. Confusion against Weasel, we get a crit. I don't know if it's a one-shot otherwise. Grottle, we're going to go for Confusion. It's going to be a two-shot. It goes for Razor Leaf. That does a lot, but we tank it nicely, and we go for Confusion, knock out the Grottle, and then Ponyta, we go for Confusion. It's going to, oh, not knock me out with Ember. Perfect. So we used Kadabra the entire way through, and we're at level 23 and a half. So, not bad. Now we're going to make our way to Veilstone, but one thing I gotta tell you, these twins, if you played a lot of Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, yeah, you might be surprised. They walk in unison towards you. There is a way to avoid them. You just need one Pokemon in your party. Now, we could have achieved this by letting Rival 2 knock out all our Pokemon, but there is a PC located in the contest hall. What about the one in the Pokemon Center? Just wait. I know this isn't going to make any sense to most of you right now, but I cannot tell you how lucky we are that this PC exists. I would have had to have restart the run if it didn't. So, yay. I'll get to it. It's going to be a while, but we're going to get to why this PC just saved the run. Anyway, there are no mandatory trainers on Route 209 or 210, so we can proceed eastward on Route 215. There is a mandatory trainer here, the Ruin Maniac. And oh yeah, now you have to make sure you have at least more than one Pokemon. Thalassian Town has the daycare, and because of that, we can battle in one battle instead of two, the Ace trainers just outside of Veilstone. But let's head inside Veilstone Gym, which is a fighting gym. You'll see all these planks that need to be pushed and tons of trainers. Now, it may surprise you to learn that although there's lots of trainers that you could have to battle, only one of them, because look how many of them just spin around. I actually call these ones rotators because they spin in a predictable manner. Only one of them is mandatory. It's this guy in the bottom right. He actually doesn't move whatsoever. And you'll notice he leads with a Meditite, which doesn't have great moves to hit Kadabra with, but I also am not super effective to it. Speaking of which, the 28th battle is Maylene. So Maylene only has 3 Pokemon. The first is, of course, Meditite. I go for Psybeam, which I have now, and it one-shots, which is excellent. So I'm at level 26. Machoke is next, and unsurprisingly, I outspeed and one-shot. And so I'm going to be likely, yes I am, at level 27. Now out comes Lucario, it's at level 30, and it outspeeds, goes for Drain Punch, which crits. Don't know if it knocks out without the crit, so we'll have to try again. Unfortunately, this time, we actually don't get the one-shot on Meditite, and so when we make it to Lucario, we're at half health, and Bone Rush knocks me out. I do try to see what Prinplup, which is at level 22, could do, but seriously, not enough. So I have to figure out if there's something, an item I could use, something I could do to make things a little bit more consistent. Here's what I came up with. Unfortunately, it seems like Meditite is just a luck factor. Do you get the one shot or not? We didn't, but it went for Confusion. And you'll see after the Hyper Potion, we don't get it again. So it looks like it isn't in our favor to get it. And that's unfortunate. A little bit more experience would be helpful there. Machoke, obviously, is a Majoke. And then Lucario, here's what I do. I actually swap into Cranidos here, and it gets hit by Metal Claw. This is fine. I needed something to tank the hit. Now I can go into Prinplup. And with Prinplup, because Lucario actually outspeeds Kadabra, I need to go for Rock Tomb. And now I need to do as much damage as possible with Rock Smash. The more damage I do, the more likely Kadabra can knock it out. Unfortunately, it goes for Drain Punch. And now it's all up to Kadabra. We do outspeed. I go for Psybeam, and it does decent damage, but I probably should have gone for Pluck. It eats a Citrus Berry, uses Force Bomb to paralyze me, but due to the Synchronize ability, I paralyze it. I still outspeed, and due to that really clutch paralysis, it doesn't attack, and Maylene heals. But it is going to be a two-shot to knock it out. I don't get paralyzed, and this was a little bit of a crazy situation. I could have used Reflect earlier, actually, now I think about it. But I think we'll take that. Again, if I had just plucked the Citrus Berry, things would have been fine too. It worked. It all worked out. Kadabra did a good job against Maylene, and we have 3 gym badges. Also, as you can see, I reset and then did a battle with Pluck, and you can see that it was also required a little bit of luck with Bone Rush, but it worked out. So we won in a couple different ways. With minimum battles, I always kind of want these to be consistent, just because my dream was for one of these to one day become a speedrun. Trust me, they won't, for reasons that will become very apparent in maybe about 15 minutes or so, but hey, you can dream. All right, the next battle we have to do is a multi-battle with Dawn, and you'll notice I use Prinplup here. Kadabra is just way too close to leveling up to level 30, and I would like to use it versus Crasher Wake, which means Prinplup gets a little bit more use here in a battle where, theoretically, it should be pretty good with both Rock Tomb and Pluck. All right, well, we're going to proceed southwest, and there are 2 routes, Route 214 and 213. There's only 1 mandatory battle on these entire routes. So many trainers, they can all be skipped. This Psychic, right near Veilstone. You can see that I often will pause for a while to see if trainers will actually move. Some of them spin, but not super frequently. Not in this case, and we're still just using Prinplup for now. But as we enter Pastoria City, we're going to get into our 4th gym battle versus Crasher Wake. This is a huge battle for us, because if we win, Kadabra can level up all the way to level 50 before the 6th gym in Canalave City, which is actually not too far away. Now we're going to head into the Pastoria gym. There are 4 trainers, and we do want to level up Kadabra a little bit. It's still a little under-leveled for Wake, but not too much. It's a careful balancing act. All right, the 35th battle is Crasher Wake. He leads with Gyarados, and you may notice we have some new moves, including Shockwave. I've actually held on to that TM a while. It's just outside of Veilstone on Route 215, but it isn't enough to one-shot Gyarados. It goes for Brine, however. Then Wake uses a Super Potion. I go for Psybeam, trying to get it to use another Super Potion, but no luck. Now, you'll see Kadabra does level up to level 30, but this is fine as long as I'm not above level 30. Floatzel comes out, uses Brine. I'm over half HP, so it doesn't do too much. I go for Psybeam, but it's going to go for Ice Fang. It knocks me out, and so that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Speaking of things that won't work, watch this battle. So this time I decide to play it a little bit smarter. I'm going to go and use Shockwave here. Now, I already know we're not one-shotting the Gyarados. It goes for Dragon Rage, which is a far scarier move. But once again, go for Psybeam, and this time I get a crit. Now out comes Floatzel, but we're going to play this a little smarter. Cranidos is great for tanking attacks, and it does its job. And now Prinplup. We're going to do the exact same thing we did to Lucario. We're going to make the Floatzel slow. And in this case, actually deal some significant damage. So we're just going to go for some Rock Tombs here. Try to get it as slow as possible. And then just go for Rock Smash. Try to knock it out. Don't forget, Prinplup is primarily for HM purposes. I also forgot to go for Pluck. That would have been bad because... see, that's actually what I didn't want to do. Nice crit there, but we put it within healing range. I actually do quite a bit of damage. I almost knock it out, and I almost wish I would have, because now what's going to happen is that Kadabra is going to go for Psybeam, and it's going to gain all the EXP, which is going to level it up to level 30. And so I just messed up a little bit with the experience points. It ignores order and goes for Shockwave, which doesn't affect Quagsire. So I need to do something a little different so that Kadabra gains a little bit less experience points. How frustrating. Ultimately, I decided just to play the RNG game because it just... I mean, listen, would it be nice if Kadabra just did what I wanted to do? Sure. But I knew the strategy would work, and I did want Kadabra to gain more experience points, and I couldn't get it to lose like 20. Literally, it's like 20 away from having this work out, and I don't want to use Prinplup anymore, so we just have to go with the exact same strategy, and this time it does use Grass Knot versus Quagsire. I have a ton of experience. I'm at level 31. This should be pretty much all I need going forward. Wait, what's the next gym? I'm sure it won't be a problem. We have 4 gym badges, and everything is looking fantastic. Nothing can go wrong, right? Let's hold on to that thought. We have to battle Barry again, but this time he's a lot easier with Kadabra. We're just going to go Psybeam against Starly. Why he still has a level 26 Starly, I will never figure out. Next comes out another confusing Pokemon, a level 25 Weasel. Goes for Aqua Jet, so I'm losing HP, but that's fine. Hopefully have enough for Grotle here. I go for Psybeam, and it is enough to one-shot Grotle, which is excellent. And now out comes Ponyta. We do enough to one-shot that. Everything is amazing, and we can move on. We're going to head back to Veilstone the same way we got there, but there is a grunt we have to battle with a Glameow. It's pretty trivial. But then we have to proceed to the northern part of Route 210, and this is where things get a little bit irritating, because as we skip ahead a bit, this route is a foggy route, which I cannot use defog. You see, I only have 4 Pokemon, including an egg, but that egg is going to become a Happiny, which cannot learn defog. And thank goodness it isn't mandatory to use. There are a bunch of, by the way, speaking of mandatory trainers on this route, including this Ace trainer over here. But the thing with defog is that it lowers the accuracy both of you and your opponent. Thankfully, we have Shockwave. Did I teach it for this? No. Does it work well? Oh, yes, it does. Unfortunately for Grotle, I'm going to have to switch to Psybeam, and it just makes every battle super duper annoying and tedious, and there's a few of them. 3 more on this route, although it felt like there'd be more of them. There are a lot of skippable trainers. But there's also something once we get past them into Celtic Town. This guy, our hero. We just have to talk to him, and assuming it's morning, he will give you the Choice Specs, one of the best items we could hope for. This item will lock us into the first move we use, but will increase special attack by 50%. Considering we often just spam Psychic or Psybeam or whatever, this is a massive, massive item to get, very rarely available before the post game. And it just works out so perfectly that we're using a Kadabra here. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't play a lot of Diamond and Pearl. I actually thought we battled Cyrus here, but no, in Diamond and Pearl, it's just a grunt. And you can see I don't have the Choice Specs equipped yet. No reason to. Switching moves can be useful for bad trainers. And speaking of trainers, there are none more until Fantina. We just have to backtrack all the way back to Hearthome, but on the way, we actually need to go and get strength. I forgot to do this from Lost Tower. I forgot because, again, in Platinum, this is not where you get strength, but doesn't matter. Now, I was super worried we'd have to battle some trainers here, but as you're going to see, There are no actual mandatory battles. I mean, it's annoying to get by some of the trainers, but every single battle here is skippable. Also, don't forget, we can only have one Pokemon here because we have to go buy the twins. Every time you want to go buy those twins, you got to make sure you only have one Pokemon. Speaking of Pokemon, we still only have 3. That egg hasn't hatched yet. Come on, how long does this take? All right, now we get to Hearthome Gym, which I hate. It's just a bunch of weird math problems. I don't exactly know why that's a thing in a Pokemon game. It's very, very strange. I also forgot to get my Pokemon back, which may be a problem, but we're going to change up some stuff for Fantina. I'm going to take the Mind Plate. Oh yeah, I had a Mind Plate, so I had 20% boost on my Psychic moves. Well, that's why I was knocking things out easier. But we're going to equip the Choice Specs. Now first comes Drifblim. So I actually don't have Shadow Ball. I want to see how much I would do with Psybeam, and I do enough that after Gust, I knock it out in 2 hits. So that's okay. Next, we have Miss Magus. Miss Magus, it goes for Magical Leaf. I go for Psybeam, and does decent, but after Citrus Berry, I'm not going to have enough to knock it out. So that's unfortunate. And Hyper Potion, if it confuses, maybe I'll have a chance, but alas, no. So we're either going to need more Pokemon or Shadow Ball. Now you might wonder, J-Rose, just teach Shadow Ball here. Isn't that why you got it? The problem is, I kind of need all my moves. J-Rose, you don't need all your moves. Trust me, I see one that's really easy to get rid of. I don't know what you're talking about. All these moves are vital. Except, okay, they weren't all vital. We can get rid of Psybeam. Not the move you thought I was going to delete, and we do need to equip the Choice Specs. We actually will not one-shot without it. But Miss Magus has Shadow Ball, which it doesn't use. Why would it go for Psybeam? That's not even very effective. What's going on here? We one-shot it, but alright, Gengar has Shadow Claw. That's not going to be the move it selects. It selects Poison. What's going on here? Did I just glitch the game? No. I didn't glitch the game. The game's broken. And I mean that. And it's frustrating. Because how was this game released with the glaring problem that the AI always attacks randomly? Literally, every AI, as far as I know, in this entire game, correct me if I'm incorrect, there's a single one that doesn't do this. Maybe in the tower. But in the main game, as far as I can tell, perhaps there are some stipulations like they won't double status, but they don't attack with any kind of logic. I mean, in any modern Pokemon game, they would be going for Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball. In Platinum, it works properly. But for some reason, this broken mess of a video game, which was supposed to be cutting edge at the time, has AI more insanely ridiculous and broken than Red and Blue. And it's not just Fantina, it's every single trainer in the entire game. Meaning so long as we have the right moves to knock out our opponents, we can reset until they just select the very wrong move. And that's really sad. But that's how this game works. Speaking of how the game works, to get to the next gym, we have to backtrack through Mount Coronet and head back all the way, pretty much the beginning of the game, to Jubilife to get to Canalave City. All we need to do is go back through Mount Coronet to Orberg and, oh yeah, those trainers are there. Oh yeah, that was a one-way ledge. Am I stuck? I mean, we could battle an extra trainer, but am I stuck? No. I mean, okay, so I don't have a Pokemon that can use Fly, which is abysmal, but I can technically get out the other way, right? Through Celtic Town? That's something that really sucks about this challenge. When you don't get a flying Pokemon, you have to do so much extra walking. But hey, if it saves us a battle, it's worth it, right? This took 4 minutes, by the way, and that's with speed up. At real speed, I think this takes about 10 minutes. But it's all right. We have... Wait a minute. We can't use strength until we beat Byron. I'm trapped. There's no way to get through this without an extra battle. Unless you don't delete teleport off Kadabra and then teleport back to Orberg. But wait, J-Rose, if you go inside a Pokemon Center, doesn't that reset your teleport point? Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. So does that mean you just played through a third of the game without ever going inside a Pokemon Center, using the random PCs you mentioned in order to deposit your Pokemon and therefore heal them? Yeah, that's what I did. And this is why, genuinely, Kadabra is the only Pokemon usable to get minimum battles. Well, at least you have to get Kadabra. Or Abra, I should say. In theory, you could go with Empoleon, but it's impractical since the reason we picked Piplup/Primplup/Empoleon is to use HMs, which it's very good at doing, because we have so few Pokemon available to us. So, even though originally I picked Kadabra because I'm JRose11 and it's my channel's mascot, it actually is the necessary Pokemon to cut off a battle, making it the true minimum battles. And since it's been like 40 minutes, let me remind you, because of the limited number of Pokemon and HMs we need, there was always going to be an extra battle. We always needed to catch some Pokemon. It being Kadabra is the only one that actually saves us an entire battle. As far as I know, there's no other combination of starter and Pokemon you can catch, even one that can use Fly, that can use all the HMs the way Kadabra and Piplup can, or Primplup. So, yeah, I'm calling this mandatory for Kadabra. But alright, we gotta get back to the run. We're in Canalave City, and we're gonna battle Barry 3, Rival 3, whatever you want to call him. Look, he has a Staravia. Ooh. Now, I have to go for Shockwave because I still don't have a Psychic move. I'll get one soon. And because I actually forgot to unequip the choice specs, I have to keep going for Shockwave, meaning I'm hit by Horn Attack. I do level up, but this is going to be a problem fairly soon. Weasel goes for Quick Attack. I go for Shockwave. That's really good. And then Grottle comes out. Now, this is going to be a problem, but I have level 1 Happiny. Yay! It finally hatched, and it did its job. Now I can go into Kadabra, and I'm going to go for Shadow Ball. I get a crit. I actually needed that crit. I was going to reset and take away the choice specs, but honestly, I should have just taken the win. I did battle him again in order to see if I got really lucky, but here's the thing, and this is really important. In a game where the AI attacks randomly, you're always just going to get lucky when you win. There is no consistent strat, because the AI doesn't act consistently. So this was the battle where I think I decided enough was enough. Now that's battle 43. We're going to head to Canalave Gym. And unfortunately for our minimum battles, there are 5 mandatory trainers, not even including Byron. So 6 altogether. I actually believe this gym is identical in Platinum, one of the few gyms that saw no changes. But one thing that is very different is how we're going to tackle Byron. Now, we don't have a super effective move against Steel types. We can use Shadow Ball against Bronzor. It goes for Confuse Ray, and that means I'm going to have to swap out. Happiny, you're going to help me out here. It goes for Flash Cannon. That's perfect. And sadly, Happiny will be knocked out, although that's what it's here to do. I'm going to go for Shadow Ball again and knock out the Bronzor. Now out comes Steelix. Because I have choice specs, I need to swap again, this time into Cranidos. It goes for Dragon Breath, and that actually isn't enough to knock out Cranidos, so I just go for Scary Face. It knocks me out with Dragon Breath. Alright, back into Kadabra. Focus Blast, unfortunately, is not a move it can learn, but I still have Grass Knot, which I used to beat Crasher Wake, and with a crit, it can beat Steelix, and then Bastiodon comes out. It goes for Iron Defense, and I was going to say 2 are enough to knock it out, but looks like it's going to be a bit of a range. Thankfully, it didn't get the Omni Boost from Ancient Power. Oh, well, maybe it's not a range. Maybe I just can't. I think it is, but regardless, that was a fairly easy gym battle. Obviously, it didn't look like Kadabra would work, especially when I found out Focus Blast can only be learned by Alakazam. Didn't even know that. But no problem here. But now we're going to start into the part of the game that's really tedious. We're going to have to trek all the way north to Snow Point City. Fly would only help us marginally, but I think you can see why we're going to want to get it. One thing I'll mention is that Iron Island is accessible, but the only way to get a Riolu would be to battle the trainers, which I have no interest in doing in a minimum battles run. It would be optional battles. So sadly, we're not going to be able to get a Lucario, but wouldn't really help us at this point anyway, let's be honest. But before we go to Snowpoint City, we have to go all the way back to Lake Valor, and this took me about 20 minutes. Now you might wonder, J-Rose, with increased speed, how could it possibly have taken you so long? Remember, like this grunt right here, there are many trainers that spin around, and when they see you, you need to reset, and they can see you a lot. Thankfully, all the grunts here turn around, but I have to keep saving, which is not a quick process. Anyone who's played Diamond and Pearl as a kid knows that it takes 5 ever to save. And while I'm extremely grateful these grunts all move around, oh boy is this tedious, but we can get by all of them and battle Saturn. Now Saturn leads off with a Kadabra. How cool. I go for Shadow Ball and knock out Kadabra, and then I go for Shadow Ball, not quite knocking out Bronzor. Rock Tomb's a little annoying, but then comes out Toxicroak. Again, I'm choice spexed, so I could in theory go and swap, but I go for choice specs Shadow Ball. Doesn't quite knock it out, but I wasn't. Oh, well, maybe I should have not done that. Okay, my bad. See, if the AI weren't random, I would have swapped and then gone for Psychic. This is kind of why I want more Pokemon, by the way. You're seeing the strat in action. Well, actually, you didn't see it in action, but you're hearing the strat in not action. You're about to see it in action against the Toxicroak in Battle 2. But I can use choice specs. So long as I have Pokemon to swap into, I can just change my moves on the fly. It requires me to feint a useless Pokemon, but who cares? And since we've defeated Byron, we actually have obedience all the way up to level 70. I don't even know if we're going to get that high at the Elite Four. So we no longer have to worry. We can just use Kadabra from here on out. And there are quite a few more battles left, I hate to tell you. But even worse, we have to make a tedious walk back to Lake Verity. With Fly, this takes 8 seconds. You fly to Sandgem Town, you're perfect. But sadly, we have to walk all the way back, which means going north, through Cellstick, back down the bike path. It is brutal. Then we have to go through Orbor Gate, proceed south. Oh my god, do I hate this. But there are a couple battles we have to do here. These 2 grunts you can't get around. It's a double battle, so it's still counted as just one battle. And thankfully, after we win that battle, we can actually just surf around the other 2 grunts and go to battle Mars. Now, it's been a while since we battled Mars. Remember, that was the one with the Perugly. Because of that, we're going to lock ourselves into Psychic. I mean, it's our best move anyway. I also should heal here, but Psychic will one-shot Golbat. We level up. Will it one-shot Perugly? It will. Hey, that's why we use a Kadabra. And then Bronzor, it double resists, but I can just do some nice swapping here. In fact, I can even lower Bronzor's health slightly, and then swap back to Kadabra for a choice spec Shadow Ball. Perfect. Now we have to backtrack again all the way back to Mount Coronet so we can get to, finally, Snowpoint City. How long is this gonna take? In fact, remember the game show The Price is Right? I want you don't have to comment. I'm not doing this for engagement. Think about, based on the times I've given you, how long you think it will take me. And remember, I'm playing about approximately 2.5, 3 times sped up. Doesn't work super great. But how many real-world minutes is it going to take me to get to Route 216, the first snow route? What are your guesses? Actual retail time is, I have to look it up, exactly 15 minutes and 30 seconds. Who was closest? I mean, since you didn't write it down, none of us will know, but you will feel proud of yourself, and I hated this. Now, it may surprise you to learn there are no mandatory battles on Route 216, but there are 2 on Route 217, a couple of ace trainers, so we'll quickly go and beat them before we make our way eastward into, well, kind of northeastward, into Snowpoint City. Welcome to the penultimate gym, Snowpoint Gym. It sucks. I mean, okay, it's kind of fun. You just kind of have to know how to do the pattern, and there are no mandatory battles. It doesn't even require that much stealth if you know what you're doing. Of course, I haven't played the game in a while, so I had no idea what I was doing. But by the time I got to Platinum, this is again one that I believe is completely unchanged. I did know how to do this. And by the way, I think you can actually glitch this in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl the way I just did it. So yeah, that's cool. For this video's purposes, we're just going to skip it via editing. Woo! Battle 55 is Candice. She leads with Snover. Don't really have a good move, so I'm just going to go for Choice Spec Psychic. It's almost always the best play, and it one-shot Snover. Hooray! Now hail is falling because of the Snover. Not a big deal. Sneasel, unfortunately, I can't use Psychic against that. So, Happiny, I choose you. Avalanche. Well, that's fine. Now we go back into... Well, actually, I'm going to go to Prinplup here. I think it might make sense to go for Rock Tomb. Taunt is fine. Ah, it missed. Because I think it might outspeed, and I don't want it to do that. Kadabra, unfortunately, has a negative speed nature. Remember, it's been a while, but I told you they're always the same Abra you get via trade, so I can't change the nature or anything. I've weakened the Sneasel, and this should put it in range for me to knock it out. Actually, I've done great work here. It's level 38. Let's see how this goes. The hail, by the way, will not stop in Gen 4. I'm going to go for Shockwave, and... Nice, we got the Sneasel. I believe there are 2 Pokemon remaining, including Abomasnow. All right, well, we're only got 1 switch left. It's going for Grass Whistle. I still should have switched, but that kind of sucks. Then Swagger. Well, if we hit, we're going to do quite a bit of damage. Let's see. Nice. That may actually be the difference between one-shotting and not. And then I actually outspeeded. It's probably going for Avalanche here. Yes, it is. That's the TM move. And now I'm almost definitely going to one-shot. So, Cranidos. Kudos. Anyway, we go for Psychic and we knock out Abomasnow. And then we level up. And now 1 more Pokemon remaining. It is a Medicham, the well-known Ice Pokemon Medicham. And it gets knocked out by a Choice Spec Psychic. So that is 7 gyms. And like I said, 55 battles. And all of this, other than the footage you saw from 2 years ago, was all done in a single day. If that sounds like a lot of a run to do in one day, it was. I had to take a break. 5 days later. I don't remember why it took me 5 days to pick this challenge back up again, but I'm going to tell you, as a video, I really, really like it. But there is quite a bit of backtracking to be done, and since we have gotten rid of teleport, and we used the PC anyway, I no longer can teleport back to wherever it was I last healed. I have to make the incredibly tedious walk back. Well, actually, I have to go through Lake Acuity anyway to advance the plot, but it still sucks. Another 10 minutes of tedious resetting, walking, etc. I'm back in Veilstone because it's time to go and battle all the grunts in the Galactic HQ. How many grunts exactly do we need to battle? For the record, by the way, although speedruns and minimum battles runs are not identical, there is some overlap, and I was always sure to check with the speedrun documentation to make sure if a trainer was skippable or not. I have messed that up before, specifically in Fire Red Leaf Green. I battled an extra trainer in Koga's gym due to not knowing a shortcut that doesn't exist in Gen 1. I still am mad about that. For the record, I also think I could cut down on a battle or 2 in Gen 2 by using teleport strats. I'm mad about that too. So I really want these numbers to be perfect. But anyway, to answer my question, I just asked how many grunts do I need to battle? It's only 3. This, by the way, was a second grunt, and I decided if I could do it just as a single battle and still be minimum, then I will. The less battles, even though double and single battles are technically the same battles, I've always opted to make things a little harder, battle the trainer if there's a choice with less Pokemon, or only make it a single battle if there's a choice. Of course, if it's 2 single battles, that would be 2 battles, but here, he didn't look in the right direction, so we can just move on by, and eventually we will get to battling Cyrus. Alright, so this is the first of 2 battles with Cyrus. He leads with Murkrow, a dark type. The best move I have is Shockwave. I'm not sure if Choice Specs is enough to knock it out. It is. That's not bad. We level up to level 50. Now Golbat. Well, Psychic would be better, but this might be enough, and it is. That's 2 down. And now the final Pokemon is Sneasel. Because of my negative speed nature, I actually get outsped by Sneasel, and Shockwave is shockingly not going to one-shot, but it comes actually really close. Then Cyrus goes for Super Potion. Again, I'm pretty close to knocking it out. It goes for Quick Attack. That did a ton of damage, but it wasn't a Dark-type move, so it didn't knock me out because, say it with me, Diamond and Pearl are terrible games, boo! No. Listen, I actually don't like hating on games. I think if you like Diamond and Pearl, that's fine. It just, I never noticed this as a kid, to be honest with you, because often I was so overpowered, nothing got to attack me anyway. But is just so unfathomable. I can't understand how this was something that wasn't caught in testing, which leads me to believe it was intentional, which makes no sense because they never did it like this. Honestly, just really, really weird. Play Platinum. We will soon. But for now, say it with me, everyone. More backtracking! Yay! Boo. All right, you know what, guy who just booed? It's okay. We can battle Saturn just before. Give you something. Obviously, this is a mandatory battle. And once again, it's Kadabra v Kadabra. We go for Shadow Ball, knock it out. This battle went pretty easily the first time. Bronzor is next. We go for Shadow Ball, and I believe we're going to knock it out. We do. And then the final Pokemon, of course, same as last time, is Toxicroak. This time, I'm not going to mess around. I'm just going to swap and then swap back in after it knocks out the Happiny. I go for Happiny, by the way, who leveled up in a double battle. Good for Happiny. But yeah, we're just going to Psychic, knock it out. And now it's time for some tedious backtracking. Not super long. We have to go back to Mount Coronet and then ascend all the way to the top. There are a whole whack of grunts in this cave, and a few of them are mandatory. It actually takes a really long time until they start becoming mandatory. But prior to getting to the peak, there are 3 single battles and a double battle. None of them are particularly interesting. So let's get to the peak of Mount Coronet. We are at 64 battles. It is here I want you to see something, all right? Mars and Jupiter are not just going to battle you in a double battle, but a multi-battle with Barry. And Barry and his Pokemon suck. They're so bad. Now, the strat is the same as before. Use moves, swap, but Barry, like the AI, just attacks completely randomly. It's so frustrating. Now, trust me, I'm watching this battle and cringing because in the end, I developed a really convoluted strategy to making this somewhat consistent. But right now, I'm just trying to figure everything out. So at this point, we have a Skunk Tank as well as a Golbat. I don't want to be using Shadow Ball anymore, I don't think, because I have choice specs. You know what? How much does it do against Golbat? Oh, actually, it knocks it out. That's not bad. Okay, and then it Poison Jabs Munchlax. An additional RNG component. Will it knock me out? Actually, I shouldn't use Shadow Ball here. I'm just going to use it against Skunk Tank. Oh, that actually did pretty good. But yeah, Kadabra gets knocked out. Obviously, I need a better plan. Here is said slightly better plan. So we're still just going to go for Shadow Ball against a Bronzor. Hope we knock it out. If we knock out that Bronzor, I think we should go Shadow Ball against Golbat because we know it knocks it out. And then Purugly comes out. Now I decide it's time to swap into Happiny. There is no heal between these battles, by the way, so I have a Pokemon fainted, which isn't great, but whatever. Now I have to wait for Happiny to faint, and once it does, I can swap Kadabra back in. Then I can go, ooh, Shadow Claw, that's really bad. But I can go for Shockwave against the Purugly, and due to all the damage Munchlax did, I can knock it out. I'm almost knocked out by Bronzor, but Munchlax is actually being weirdly helpful. And after I knock out the Purugly, you'll notice I've made it a 2v1. Bronzor does its very best to just almost knock me out and yet not do so. I use Shockwave to knock out Bronzor, and now out's gonna come the second Pokemon for Jupiter. Now, I really just have to hope that the Skunk Tank attacks Munchlax. And it might. It very much might. And it does, knocking out the Munchlax, and in comes Staraptor. Intimidate is super useful, although it doesn't really matter for me because one hit and I'm knocked out. But Staraptor decides to go for an attacking move and knock out the Skunk Tank, and Shockwave does just enough. It is super effective to knock out Golbat. Critical hit didn't matter, and we are about to battle Cyrus. But, and I'm going to ask the editor here not to speed anything up because you need to see how long this cutscene is. People talk about cutscenes in Sword and Shield. People talk about cutscenes in Gen 7, but this is a cutscene. I mean, I can still mash dialogue, but this takes... It's not a short amount of time, right? It's still going. This is still going. And every time I lose to Cyrus, I have to watch that again. Cyrus, unfortunately, loves dark Pokemon. Thankfully, our Shockwave is still powerful enough to one-shot the Honchkrow, but Weavile is going to be a bit of a problem. it immediately goes for Night Slash, and even though it can randomly pick its moves, that's not the move we want. Now, one thing you may have noticed is there was no option to access the menu or save between the battles. I did get healed, but there was no ability to save. And thus, I have to battle Mars and Jupiter, which is difficult, and then watch that long cutscene in order to get another attempt at Cyrus. I cannot tell you, as bad as the backtracking was, this was one of, and I mean this, I've done so many runs, the worst experiences I've had in Pokemon. And what made it so bad is that sadly, it was kind of self-inflicted. First thing I should mention before I show another Cyrus battle is that these Mars-Jupiter battles are not quick. I lose typically towards the end of them, which wastes a ton of time. So it's almost been 20 minutes of real human time between my Cyrus battles. And here's what makes it all awful and not worth it. I'm just relying on RNG for Weavile, right? I'm just relying on RNG for Weavile. And if I get Night Slash, it might take another 20 minutes to get back there. Want to hear something awful as I battle him a third time? Even if you win, I won. It takes 5 minutes, and I'm speeding up the game. This isn't even the intended speed. If I were playing this on my DS, which I considered doing, think how awful this would be. Now I'm going to try to be crafty versus Weavile. If I swap in Prinplup, maybe I can hit it with a Rock Tomb. Unfortunately, I needed Weavile to go for X-Scissor, and now I need it to go for either Brick Break or not X-Scissor. Brick Breaker or probably Ice Punch, but yeah, it's just completely RNG. For those who don't know, RNG stands for Random Number Generator. It's just a way I'm used to saying luck when it comes to video games, but yeah, sorry, I should just say it comes down to luck. 12 minutes later, I have my fourth battle versus Cyrus. Honchkrow at least is consistent, but with Weavile, I messed up. You will see why I messed up in a second, but Prinplup shouldn't be gaining experience points. I meant to give Prinplup a different item. You could imagine what item it is, but I'll let you know in just a second. I did say a lot of this was self-inflicted. That one, completely self-inflicted. This time it only took 3 minutes between victories. We knock out Honchkrow, and I'm going to switch into Hibini. Brick Break, that would have been perfect. No, finally used Brick Break. But all right, I got an idea. Prinplup, go for Rock Tomb. I needed Ice Punch or Quick Claw, which I don't get. Maybe it'll go for Brick Break again. Ooh, it does. But do I do enough damage to knock it out? No. And with Citrus Berry, it's a 3-shot. This is... So you can see what I'm thinking. Do some damage with it. But even still, it won't do that much. That was way less than I was expecting. Am I stuck? 10 minutes later, I get my 6th attempt at Cyrus, and you'll see Prinplup is in the lead. Why Prinplup? Because with Quick Claw, I can go for Stealth Rock. Maybe with Stealth Rock, ooh, now I can even save Prinplup for the Weavile. This could be perfect. It goes for Drill Peck, and now I have Stealth Rock to do some damage. Maybe this is how I do it. This is so perfect. I knock out the Honchkrow, and now I just need Weavile to cooperate, or actually more realistically, I need Quick Claw to cooperate. So, all right, that's some damage. That's great damage, 25%. Go Cranidos, you can do it. Night Slash, well, that would have been the worst thing to see, so I'm glad I missed it. And then Prinplup, I need Rock Tomb. Come on, 20%. Let's go, let's go. Oh, well, I mean, odds weren't in my favor there. And then we go for Shockwave. All right, this is good. One more, we win. One more, we win. Use Brick Break. Oh, Super Potion's fine. Okay, crit, maybe, crit, maybe, crit. No. All right, come on. Oh, every time. I mean, you can't expect everything to go right, Gyros. It's not going to work like that. I mean, you're looking for like 2 or 3 Quick Claws. Like, what are the odds? Oh, well, there it went for Embargo. That's nice. I can swap into Penny and then swap back in Kadabra, Shockwave it. And now let's swap in Cranidos. It faints. Maybe if I get Quick Claw, I outspeed. Ice Punch. Wait, I don't even need it. I tank it. Let's go. Let's go. I think we got it. Ooh, that did a little less than I thought. Super Potion. Ooh, that's not actually good. We have 2. Maybe we can get another one. All right. Well, Brick Break's fine. Ugh, Super Potion. I didn't expect that. All right, let's go Shockwave. I think I need a crit. So we go first. Go for Brick Break. 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 No! I just can't. I can't win. Well, I just wouldn't stop losing to Cyrus. It didn't seem to matter what I did. By the way, we do take an Ice Punch. That's pretty cool. But I just couldn't win. I never got by the Weavile. So I think it's time... Uh-oh. What? We can't leave. And I don't have Fly. No, 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 no. I need to leave. I need more rare candies. No, 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 no. I can't leave? You can't leave? Why? Why can't you leave? Are you kidding me? I would even go back to Veilstone and get vitamins. I mean, if we had more Carbos, we could go faster, and then we wouldn't have to worry about being outsped. There's so much stuff I could do. There's rare candies, there's Reflect, there's all these options. I didn't realize I wouldn't be able to leave once I started. If only I had known. All I can do is just battle, and I spent over an hour battling. I have yet to make it past Weavile. Just lose after lose after... Wait! Wait! We did it! Oh my god! Wait, we did it! Wait, we did it! Wait, we did it, but we have to stick with Shockwave. We still have the Stealth Rock. Oh my god, wait! We did it! I can't believe it! Wait, it's Gyarados. I can't believe it. Oh my god, that's insane. But there is something I have to come clean about, and I'm not exactly proud of this, but I'm not exactly ashamed of it either. For the first time in one of these challenges, I modified the game to overcome my own short-sightedness. I wasn't aware of the fact I was locked into the battle. If I had known that once I get to the peak of Mount Coronet, there would be this double battle and then a bunch of dark Pokemon, I was really just kind of seeing how everything was, just kind of testing things. That's how I usually do these runs. It's more fun that way. I've never been punished so severely, having to watch a cutscene over and over in a difficult battle over and over, and then I couldn't go back and get Carbos, because you'll notice I outsped the Weavile because I bought the Carbos, and I could have even gotten more rare candies that I didn't. Now, I had the option of just redoing the run from scratch, but I'd been at this for about 9 real-world hours. I didn't want to throw that away because I didn't know. It's so dumb. And so I just changed my position value so that I was in Veilstone as opposed to on Mount Coronet. So I did have to backtrack. And it's not something I'm proud of, but it is something that we could have just redone if I really wanted to. Also, important to note, Dialga does not count as a battle because we can just run away like any other wild Pokemon, so it doesn't get any special treatment. Guys, in the past, I may have just redone the run, but I'll be real with you, this has been incredibly tedious. And I have been upfront with the fact that even though, yes, this is something I can play on legit cartridge and I can migrate the save back and forth, I am using something that allows me to speed up the game. That still isn't completely legit. It's not as illegit. Also, look at that escape rope. So cool. Not as illegit as hacking a position value for sure, but I didn't want to redo the run and that was the alternative. Or just maybe playing 4 or 5 hours and getting the craziest luck imaginable. So for that reason, I'm not ashamed of my decision, but it also is the first time I've had to resort to something like that. It sucks. It's something I wish... Oh, also, I'm not where I thought I was, but... Ultimately, what bothered me so much is that with Carbos, we didn't have to rely on such crazy RNG because we could just go first and thus Sneasel only had 1 or 2 turns to attack me as opposed to 3 or more. So yeah, it is what it is. We still needed crazy RNG. It still took me like an hour. I'd want you to understand that. And I'm annoyed I didn't go get the rare candies because that would have made it way, way easier. It's something I thought about now, but I mean, a win is a win. And we're going to move on to the end of the game. There's actually very little game left. Still, there's one last backtracking session to get to Sunny Shore City. Thankfully, the Elite Four is just north of there, so I don't have to backtrack anymore. There is a sailor on Route 222 that is mandatory. So we're going to battle him and his 3 Pokemon, which are all really easy. And then pretty much we head straight into Sunny Shore Gym. Now this gym, sadly, has a lot of trainers and almost none of them are skippable. I confirmed with the speedrunning documentation they would not make me do extra battles at this point. There is just no way around these trainers. You can see all of them. They're all in the perfect spots. And that is 6 additional battles. That's a lot. I thought we'd be towards the end of our battle counter, but we're not. That would mean Volkner is battle 74. That means it's just the very lengthy gold, silver, and crystal that have more battles than diamond and pearl, since 74 would be more than the 72 battles required for Pokemon Emerald, our previous silver medalists. I wonder how many platinum needs. For now, let's battle an ostensibly electric team, I guess. I have 4 psychics, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Psychic against Raichu, and then the next Pokemon is Ambipom, well-known electric type, then Luxray, well-known electric type, and then Octillery, well-known electric type. All of them easily knocked out by Psychic. I still did use some rare candies, and definitely, being a traded Pokemon, I am definitely a higher level than the game anticipates, so I wonder if the Elite Four is going to be easier. Wouldn't it be funny if Cyrus was the final difficult obstacle? I doubt that's going to be the case, but it'd be pretty funny. Unfortunately, as we head up Route 223, there are a bunch of mandatory battles, including the swimmer. There is no way around him. So that is one more battle. But unfortunately, unlike Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, there are lots of trainers in Victory Road that are mandatory. How many? 8 of them. And yes, I triple checked that. There are 8 mandatory trainers. And so as we enter the, what do they even call it? The Elite Four Castle? What do they call this? The Elite Four building? I actually don't know what they call this. But we're at 83 battles. So is 88 the number we need to beat Diamond and Pearl? Not quite. There's one more battle you have to do in the building even before you access the Elite Four. We have to battle everyone's favorite hyperactive rival, Barry. Finally, he gets a Staraptor, but I'm ready. I just go for Psychic. No need to use anything else. We knock it out. Heracross comes out next. Well, Psychic easily will one-shot that. Floatzel uses Aqua Jet, which does decent damage, but I'm at level 67, and I can one-shot with a Choice Spec Psychic. Correction, I'm now at level 68. Now, Snorlax has really great special defense, but we almost one-shot it. Then it goes for Earthquake, and I don't think we're going to tank that, except we totally do, and knock out Snorlax. Torterra is up next. Do we one-shot this? I doubt it, but I don't really see any other option here. I just go for Psychic, and oh my goodness, that's not a good sign for the Elite Four. I think the Elite Four may be in a lot of trouble. We just one-shot Torterra. Remember, unlike starter Pokemon, we don't have some sort of special ability that gives a 50% boost to Psychic moves if we have low health. No Overgrow, no Torrent. That's just how much damage Kadabra does. And so as I save here, we now know there will be 89 battles required to beat the game, but how difficult will the remaining 5 battles be? Only one way to find out. Up first, someone who has theoretically a good matchup against me, Aaron. Unfortunately for him, I have a bit of a plan up my sleeve. Dustox leads, and I go for Stealth Rock. I didn't have to do this, but why not? And you can see I have Surf and Waterfall. Prinplup was huge, and Waterfall, by the way, that's... Ooh, wait, Light Screen, that's a problem. Wait, that's a pretty big problem. I need to stall this now. I can't have Light Screen up. I will be able to knock out Dustox, so let's just go into Kadabra. All right, well, that's unfortunate. Unsurprisingly, we do knock out Dustox, and what's going to come out here? Beautifly. Okay, we're going to knock it out because that's 50% from the Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks does 12.5%, and then it multiplies for every weakness. So Vespiquen, which is twice weak to Rock, is 50%, and thus we're able to knock it out. Drapion, however, is not a bug. It is Poison Dark. Why? It goes for Aerial Ace. I had to swap because, well, can't use Psychic against a Dark Pokemon. The best thing I have is Shockwave. I'm still using Shockwave. And look how much it just did! Holy mackerel. It goes for Cross Poison. And for some inexplicable reason, I mean, it does have X-Scissor, but it doesn't have a Dark move, which is weird. We knock it out with Shockwave, and then Heracross comes out. I'm going to be super duper safe. It goes for Close Combat. I switch back in Kadabra. Go for Psychic. As you saw, the Heracross only was damaged 12.5% because of its fighting type. But yeah, that was amazing. And don't worry about my Pokemon fainting. I bought plenty of revives and potions as per usual in order to make sure that all my Pokemon are healed up and ready for the next battle. Do I even need them to be? I don't really know, but can't hurt. Now we get to battle a true lady of the Eartha, our good pal Bertha. She leads with Quagsire, and I still have Grass Knot. That's the move you get from the second gym, but it's absolutely shredding her first two Pokemon. I mean, Sudowoodo, by the way, not a ground type. Now, Hippowdon has Sandstream, which would have been a problem if it had come out first, because starting in Gen 4, rock Pokemon like Sudowoodo would get a 50% boost in special defense. I still may have knocked it out, but I don't know. Golem, I'm double super effective, so I'm not worried whatsoever. And then Whiscash is not rock type, and also double super effective against that. So the first two Elite Four are first try victories, and this one, it was only the Sandstorm that managed to damage Kadabra. Diamond Pearl Flint is a bit of a meme for having no fire Pokemon, and I'm gonna be ooh, nice Sunny Day. I'm gonna be kind of safe, and I have Quick Claw, but might as well just set out the Stealth Rocks. I'm gonna be doing now 25% damage to each of the fire Pokemon coming in, of which there are 2. But it could help if there's ever kind of like a borderline case. Now I won't have to worry. I mean, why not, right? Drifblim is flying type, so 25% damage, and that means Choice Spec Psychic knocks it out too. Sun's still up. Infernape, it has fighting type, so only 12.5%, and it outspeeds and goes for Flare Blitz, and I'm gonna lose. Hey, good for Flint. I didn't think I'd get outsped. Okay, a loss. Hey, that's cool. In these runs, I do save between Elite Four members because they're more theory runs and less like super challenge runs. Rapidash goes for bounce, which I'm perfectly okay with, and it should knock me out. Very good. I have the Stealth Rock, I Psychic Rapidash, that's good. Drifblim comes out next, so it looks like the Pokemon order is the same. But now, will Flare Blitz KO me if the sun's not out? Who knows? It goes for Earthquake because, and I don't want to keep harping on this, the move decisions are all random, although based on how much damage that Earthquake did, it would have knocked me out. So I had to reset for RNG, which means Flint is now unironically and definitely the hardest member of the Elite Four. Ooh, Steelix, I actually forgot about this. I'll go into Hippini. I don't have a great... All right, Screech, what do I do here? I guess I can go Charm. Okay, that's fine. I'll just go Charm. Are you going to attack me? Are you going to attack me? Okay, Sunny Day. All right. I'll copycat Sunny Day, I suppose. All right, there we go. Rock Tomb. So now, what do we even do? Do I want to send out Cranidos? Just send out Kadabra. All right, let's go for Grass Knot. How much did this do? This thing is very heavy. I did not expect it to knock it out. That's nuts. Anyway, Kadabra is very, 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 very strong. And we have made it through the first 3 Elite Four with just 1 loss. The next Elite Four member is Lucian, which is a Psychic type trainer. He is the Lance of this generation. He leads with Mr. Mime and, of course, Choice Spec Shadow Ball. Is it enough, though? Yep, Mr. Mime has decent special defense, but not enough. Giraffrig, however, one of my favorite Pokemon, is a normal type, so I'm going to have to swap in Hippini. It goes for Psychic. All right, that's fine. Now we're going to have to go for, and this may shock you, Shockwave. And how much does that do? Okay, half. Ooh, Crunch. Is that enough to knock me out? No, but it did decent damage. I can knock it out with Shockwave. And now Bronzong. So I don't have a great matchup against Bronzong because in Generation 4, Steel resists Ghost. That's no longer the case, but it is in this game. So how much do I do? About half. Actually, with the Citrus Berry less. Calm Mind. Okay, that works. If I get a crit, that would be nice. I don't. And then Gyro Ball. Okay. All right, another loss. Another loss. Respectable. So let's actually try this time. We've talked about using Stealth Rock. I don't know why I don't just do it every time. However, Mr. Mime actually attacks me, so that's why it might not always work. Now, however, I go for Charge Beam, because Mr. Mime can't do a lot. And, oh, well, it can do Light Screen. But if I just keep using Charge Beam, I can raise my special attack, don't paralyze, don't paralyze. Okay, I can raise my special attack so high that nothing can stop me now. You know, because I'm having a good time. Also, I unequipped the choice specs, and as soon... Ooh, I didn't mean to use Grass Knot there. As soon as the light screen goes down, I can now... I have to go for Psychic. Come on, come on, come on, come on. All right, we're done. That's GG. Charge Beam is the TM I got from Volkner, so this was not a viable strategy before. If it was, I totally would have done this a lot, and then choice specs wouldn't have been as valuable, but hey, better late than never. And I don't even know what item I have equipped, to be honest with you. I don't think it really matters, because we do outspeed the Alakazam, and we have made it to everyone's favorite, scariest champion, Cynthia. Cynthia is notoriously difficult. One of the most difficult champions in Pokemon history, according to many. But of course, we have the greatest Pokemon in history, Kadabra, in the greatest challenge in history, because I invented it. And with that combination, it's like destiny is on our side. Could we possibly lose? Yeah, probably, but are we going to? Well, now let's find out. Cynthia sends out Spiritomb. I send out Prinplup. Hopefully I get the Stealth Rock, but I don't because of Dark Pulse. That's okay. All right, Kadabra, I'm gonna need you to do most of the work here. I go for Charge Beam, and because the AI is random, I get Embargo. And I think I should just go for Shadow Ball. It's too risky. Spiritomb is knocked out. That's one down. Rose Raid comes out next. Unsurprisingly, super effective Psychic, +1, Charge Beam. Essentially, it's like I have a choice specs on all my moves. I hope I didn't call it Choice Scarf any of the other times. If I did, I'm sorry. But wait, apologies to Cynthia, because it tanks my Psychic attack, and Cynthia does get a victory. One Cynthia, J-Rose nothing. Now, maybe we'll get a Stealth Rock. We have Quick Claw. All right, Embargo, perfect. All right, Stealth Rock, now we just need you to attack me. Please attack me. There we go. Dark Pulse. Okay, so I'd like to not see that, but probably going to. I think only 70% chance to increase. We get it. Embargo, that's perfect. It doesn't let me use items, which I can't do anyway, by the way. Thank you very much. And it seems like the Pokemon always come out in the same order. But this time, I'm going to go for a second Charge Beam. Rose Raid goes for Extra Sensory. Love the random AI. So great. What a great design choice. And now we're not able to get the all-important second boost. And that means I need to figure out a way to beat Garchomp. I can't knock it out in one hit. So sadly, we're going to lose again. As it eats its Citrus Berry, it goes for Brick Break. Just come on. Like, what do you want me to say at this point? Gastrodon is next. We're going to use Grass Knot. We knock it out. It's double super effective. Lucario. Okay, this one. All right, I might actually lose here. I go for Psychic. I am +1. No, that's GG. What a... it's so bad. Wait, hold up. I'll go for Grass Knot. I think that's heavy enough. Oh, God. Doesn't even feel good. That's so dumb. So dumb. That's Diamond and Pearl minimum battles for you. The hardest battle was Jupiter and Mars and Cyrus. The Elite Four, I lost a total of 3 times. I think I lost something like 300 times in the Ruby Sapphire one. So I would say this is on the easier side, assuming I didn't make huge mistakes against Cyrus. But do I recommend this challenge? Wholeheartedly not. Diamond and Pearl are not very good games. This challenge requires a ton of backtracking, but in Platinum, it is completely different. Because of the changes made to the game, the Pokemon you use is different, the battles are different, it's a ton of fun. If you do want to see that video, please let me know. The more support you show on these videos, the more likely I am to make them quicker. But with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you all soon. Take care.